and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to all of you to this insightful panel discussion, A Resilient Digital Economy for Sri Lanka's Future. We are honored to have distinguished guests from government, industry, and academia joining us today as we explore the essential strategies, challenges, and opportunities that will shape Sri Lanka's digital future. This event, organized by the University of Colombo School of Computing Alumni Association, is conducted for its second consecutive year as a post-budget analysis discussion. And this year, it serves as a timely platform for thought leaders, policymakers, and industry experts to engage in a meaningful exchange of ideas aimed at strengthening the nation's digital ecosystem and enhancing long-term resilience. To officially commence today's proceedings, I now invite the President of the UCSC Alumni Association, Mr. Anushka Mendis, to deliver the welcome speech.
Good evening, everyone. Our distinguished panelists, our moderator, members of the UCSC staff, and my dear friends. So on behalf of the UCSC alumni, I warmly welcome you all to this great our calendar year in program, where we hold this on an annual basis from a post-budget perspective, where we are heading towards from an IT industry as a country. So this is the second time we are doing it. Last time I remember we brought Dr. Hans and spoke about the initiative that's spinning across from the government policy strategies perspective to go there by 2030, our 5 billion ICT economic target. And here, after 1 year, we are bringing you, my dear Honorable Minister and the distinguished other panelists in relevant to speak about where we are right now and share some good insights about how the country is developing on this aspect. So I warmly welcome you to stay tuned and get all these insights and be inspired with what's coming up and contribute towards the digital economy of the Sri Lanka and for the development of the country end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anushka Mendis. Without wasting much time, now we move to our highlight of today's event, the panel discussion. To guide this conversation, we are honored to have an esteemed moderator with us, Ms. Anudhi Nanayakkara. Ms. Anudhi is Principal, Legal and Digital Governance Advisor and Attorney at Law Sri Lanka, specializing in digital public infrastructure, e-governance, data privacy, and technology law. She brings strong background in tech law advisory across Sri Lanka's ICT ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Anudhi on stage.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion. Before we commence, I'd like to invite our esteemed panelists onto the stage. So first I call upon Honorable Deputy Minister Eranga Weeraratne, and he's representing the Digital Economy Ministry. And then following, I would like to invite Mr. Varnasri Dhanapala, who is the Acting Secretary of the Digital Economy Ministry. And then, of course, Mr. Imal Kaluthatake, who is the founder and chairman of NSINGA. If you could please make your way to as the panelists settle in. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank all of you who are here today. The weather has not been kind to us, and I also do want to take a second to acknowledge that Sri Lanka is really going through a very, very difficult time with the weather, and we really hope all of Sri Lanka will be okay and everyone will be safe. I know there was a special discussion that took place today about supporting our fellow citizens, and I really want to take a moment to acknowledge that while this discussion is a very important one, there's also very crucial other points going on in Sri Lanka, and I really thank the panel for taking the time to discuss the digital economy post-budget today. So we'll make this a interesting dialogue. We will open the floor for questions right after the panel discussion. We will begin with the Deputy Minister. Before we look towards the future, I know we're discussing the 2026 budget. There's the proposals that have been put forward. The 2025 budget also allocated significant amounts for digital projects and digital initiatives. There was a significant emphasis on digital transformation. So looking back, what would you say are the key positive outcomes and the success stories, particularly from a citizen's perspective and from the industry perspective?
Right. So, first of all, I think one of the main objectives when we came into power is to align all the digitalization that is happening in various sectors in the government, various ministries, the institutions, and all these things, including the provincial councils level, to kind of a single digital economic blueprint. And that we achieved by bringing the one platform which highlights all the horizontal DPI solutions as well as the individual pillar-based applications. And in that, like our target is to get more private organization involved in the solution delivery part. So we got the cabinet approval for the whole digital economy policy, and then we got the same mandate for all the other ministries, institutions, and including the provincial councils to align to that. So that's, I think, one of the number one key objective which we were able to achieve. And at the same time, in those digital horizontal digital DPI platforms, we've been able to get certain things out, such as the payment, GovPay-based payments, which is tremendously successful, connecting to more than 200 plus institutions within a very short time span, and also getting various services like 3,000 odd services now being able to pay digitally, including the traffic fine payments. So, so that's one solution. And then the digital ID. Yes. Now, digital ID, we believe is the main DPS solution that we are targeting, because that will be the base for any government or private sector service that requires certain authentication of a citizen. And with that, like we can so much simplify the financial processing and so on, even going up to the tax collection and everything. So we laid the basic foundation that is required for us to build on top of that. And with that alignment, I think we are going for 2026 with good allocation of budget for execution of these activities. And with that, the institutions are being now getting formed, such as GovTech. We are ready to go and get that leapfrog jump in the digitalization.
That's right, thank you. And there was approximately, I believe, 21.8 billion rupees allocated last year, and it has significantly gone up this year for the digital initiatives, or the proposed budget for 26. On that note, Secretary Mr. Dhanapala, what I would like to ask you is the flip side of it. There was a lot allocated for the digital initiatives. We've noticed there has been certain underutilization of the whole budget. There have been issues with implementation, difficulties with execution of plans. Moving forward from last year, how would you position the key learnings, and how do you propose the budget for 2026 is going to be appropriately utilized for the initiatives?
Thank you, Anudhi, for the question, and thank you for UCSC alumni for inviting for this wonderful panel. Taking from what our Honorable Deputy Minister mentioned, the initiatives are not that costly enough to disburse certain funds from our end, because most of the contributors work voluntarily. Apart from that, I think part of this budget came to us in March, so 3 months later. By that time, we have been already started discussions with some other development partners as well. They want to have a continuous kind of a investment or a funding mechanism. So we were somewhat observing how best we can align the GSL funds along with these potential donor funds. So that there's a background planning and strategizing happened on that note. So the investments we made have not directly from our end. So we disperse some of the funds towards the digitalization of the school education system. The task force chaired by Honorable Prime Minister was much benefited from our investment, as well as the delivery networks of the government. That is basically the Ministry of Public Administration, the Divisional Secretariat network, whereas you can see the President's Fund has been much decentralized its work due to most of our investment from our end. Apart from that, the establishment of GovTech as a fully government-owned company required certain equity to start with. So we are actually investing about 2 billion Sri Lankan rupees on that equity. So that's not a, it's a kind of laying the foundation for a much brighter future. The challenge that we usually encounter is the regular standard government procurement patterns as well as the timelines. So it is obvious that we need to step into a more innovative and more flexible kind of a procurement approach, and we have already started policy dialogue with the National Procurement Commission how to make it a more flexible but still with transparent and open manner by way of making some intermediaries to get things on board as much as possible with the credibility as well. So we can discuss this further. Thank you.
Thank you. So Imal, you're going to wear several hats during this discussion from the industry's perspective as an entrepreneur. So this question, it comes to you from the entrepreneurial side of things. What are the positive signals you are seeing? We've just completed one cycle of a budget under a new administration, where we've seen what is being proposed. What are the positive signals you see, and how do you see the private sector aligning with the government's objectives for the next year?
Yeah, I think first of all, the positives I see is setting up the right blueprint for the digital economy and right execution plan in terms of lining up of projects, because like things like digital IDs needed foundational for any digital government initiatives going forward. And I think we have between the Minister, Secretary and the Dr. Hans's team, we have enough brain power. They know what to do, and now it's about getting the execution done, right? I think blueprint wise, as industry, we are very much aligned, and we are very happy that we have a blueprint which we can proudly match any country. And I've lived in Singapore. I mean, if we execute this, this will be, we can probably leapfrog some of those economies. So setting up that, hats off, it's very positive. Also, on the flip side, we would like to see more and more projects coming out and spending, because industry is hungry. We need that money to flow through, right? So that hopefully Minister and the Secretary will take care of that part hopefully next year. As industry, if this get executed, I see huge opportunities for companies like us, tech companies, especially in the areas like data centers, right? AI data centers needs to be built now. Talking about digital ID, you know, IDs, physical IDs become digital. Now the traffic fines which we write on a paper, getting digital, bus tickets getting digital. So all this data needs to reside somewhere. So there's a huge opportunity for investors to come and set up AI data centers here. That's a huge opportunity I see. And also for startups, entrepreneurs, on this DPI framework, there are a lot of applications can be developed, especially around payments, especially around government services, and I see more and more opportunities around that, right? Also, there has been conversations. We have fundamental challenges to nurture startups because the structure for the funds are not there, proper structures for funds, and government have announced the fund of fund, intention to set up a fund of fund, so which is essential to have that availability of capital, because we have got the talent, there is no shortage of talent, and Sri Lankan talent probably the best in that in this region have, but what we lack is the capital, and that can be addressed. Then the entrepreneurship ecosystem, startups, SMEs will drive the economy, right? So that's another positive. On the other hand, flip side, now the fund needs to be set up, capital need to be injected into those funds who can in turn deploy capital into the startups. And I can take some, maybe I can take that in the next round, some of the examples which I've seen in other countries.
Yes, and on the implementation part of things, Deputy Minister, something we've noticed is there are certain overlaps between ministries when it comes to implementing and executing projects. I understand that sometimes when you take on something like the digital economy blueprint, it's something new you're presenting. It's like the policy anew. But how do we ensure that we limit the overlap between ministries taking on digital initiatives? And this is all very positive, but should we now reduce the reinventing of the wheel? I know under health related data, there are several projects going on. So let's talk about how we, yes, implement the digital economy blueprint, but also reduce the number of resources that are pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think Anuge, that's a very valid point. The whole purpose of establishing digital economy ministry is for that, to centralize the execution as well as policy making for this different digitalization that is happening throughout the government. So in that, all this time, I think for the first time, all the ministries and institutions are coordinating with the digital economy ministry to get advice on the digital and the technical aspects, as well as guidance to see like whether we can do the project for them. So that's, I think, great development which has not been happened in the past. And because of that coordination, good coordination, this time around, like we can lay out the right foundational system as well as avoid the duplication that is happening. And at the same time, we are building the main digital infrastructure from the digital ID, the national digital data exchange, and the payment gateways and so on. And the whole the guidance that we have, guidelines that we have given for this digitalization is to have cloud first, API first kind of strategies, so that any solutions that's been done would be able to integrate it with the other solutions. Otherwise, what happens is all the various places, like they reinvent the wheel and they try to create their own silo-based solution, which is disconnected from rest of the government platforms and working in isolation. And at the same time, most of these solutions are done separately in all these different places like provincial council, divisional secretariat council, and so on. So instead of that, this time we are laying out the blueprint for those different layers of solutions as well. The other point is, we are now in the final stage of getting a cabinet paper and approval done for a marketplace. So the idea of marketplace is for us to assess the best solutions that are needed, like common solutions that are needed by these all the organizations such as ERP platforms, HR, and so on, so that we can uniform all the systems that are going into various places. And also we can have common platforms shared by multiple institutions than doing their own systems.
Right. Then
Thirdly, we are getting all these systems into a proper government cloud platform. Now, previously what happened was all these different institutions try to build their own data centers in-house. And we can't call them data centers because sometimes it's only a single rack, maybe 1 or 2 servers sitting in an isolated corner in their building. But this time, like we have got engaged with the private sector to build good cloud platform with all the redundancy requirement, redundancy, the security, and so on, so that these institutions can consume cloud services out of that. And that will enable us also as the marketplace to implement government-wide solutions that can be consumed by various other departments. Then fourth point is that we are in the discussion with the National Procurement Commission to come up with the IS procurement, information system procurement, new guideline, because the existing guidelines are made for traditional procurement, like construction of a building, dam, or something like that. But for information systems, you need new type of procurements like resource augmentation, or maybe procurement by a prototype, kind of new ways of procurement. And at the same time, we are going to form a separate entity for procurement as well to channel through. So while having these various institutions making them like they also can do the procurements, but at the same time they can get the help of this centralized body, which will be more tech savvy, experts in the procurement process and so on. They can utilize this single entity for all their procurements. That way we can streamline these various procurements without making it duplications. So that's kind of a high-level strategy that we are doing.
Great. I do have a question on the procurement aspect. We'll come to that in the next round. Mr. Dhanapala, we have a question from our sponsors, Zappi. They are in the API data and AI governance space. This is also, I think, a very relevant question. We saw the amendment to the PDPA being passed, and now the Data Protection Authority being established. I believe the vacancies are out there. It's closed now. So that's good news. We're really being pushed towards helping the infrastructure and supporting it in terms of data privacy. And we are really looking at privacy by design. Having said that, how is the government planning to establish a unified governance framework for digital assets to ensure the interoperability aspect as well as the consistency element?
Yes, if you are aware of the overall digital economy blueprint, the middle layer is the DPI layer. whereas we have this cloud connectivity as well as identity solutions, including of the national data exchange. As the Deputy Minister just mentioned, this cutting across all the government entities, big or small, will earlier or later should comply with these standards. So, what we have is just recommendation at the moment. There is no law. We are facilitating just to come out with the silo system and come on board to share their systems and data with others. So, these compliance requirements will be gradually developed by way of a new authority called the Digital Economy Authority with much powers or authority. So, it will give directives for the head of organizations to invest properly on their infrastructure as well as the maintenance and other supporting HR as well. So, then from the bottom up approach, so then where the data is generated should be done in a way that they are interoperable in other systems, and also they are complying with certain standards. Maybe when it comes to the linguistic aspect, it could be Unicode or any other standards that we prescribe. So, when we are describing a certain kind of security or any other measures should be done in accordance with that particular guidance. So, this compliance part is a kind of a win-win, right. So, that is once you invest properly, even with a high cost, then they can be repeatedly used across their own systems, and they can be benefited across the other systems of the government. So, this one is to generate more and more data, and the other challenge is the digitizing the archaic data. So, what you have in your files may be having some historic data, some are quite useful on running certain business models, any other patterns, and also helpful to see the market trends and other things. So, there are multiple benefits of standardizing the DPI layer by way of standardizing data as well as ensuring their interoperability. There is another aspect is how to make it usable for the digital economy, right? Not for the governance or general regulatory purposes, how to make it. So, as you just mentioned, the Personal Data Protection Act provides some provisions for anonymization and pseudonymization. So, we should encourage more and more government organizations to still be comply with the personal data protection rules, but still make available such data for the industry and other researchers and others to use for a vibrant digital economy.
Thank you. Imal, moving towards the SMEs and what is available to the SMEs in Sri Lanka, given that they are a significant contributor to the digital economy. So my question is, drawing on your experience, how can we, in the current environment, help SMEs scale up, and what ecosystem conditions do you see as missing very badly at the moment? I think we just had a chat earlier also about access to venture capital and incentives and policy support. Your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, I think as we all know, SMEs contribute a huge part to the economy. The biggest challenge is access to capital for them in terms of debt funding from banks, also the private capital from venture capital kind of firms. Now, if you look at countries who are supporting this, I can draw parallels to Singapore, where some of this, I mean, the SMEs are given loans which are backed by government up to 70–80%. Even if they default, government will take care of that with the banks. It go through the banking process. They do a certain level of KYC, but it's a collateral free kind of lending backed by the government, so the risk is shared. And in terms of private capital accessibility, right now if you look at what is available for them is that daily collection type of funding, which with that kind of cost of capital, very difficult to succeed, right? Huge interest rates. But like if you look at what is available in the market for especially tech startups, only about maybe 2 or 3 venture capital funding, and then maybe some of the funding available. Angel, it's very less angel funding up to the individuals. There's also Lankan Angel Network and all that, but it's very limited set of capital. If you look at the next level, VC capital, only maybe 2 or 3 players, and then the scale up Series A kind of capital is non-existent here, right? So, and then later you have the private equity type of capital once you successful. So there's a huge need for capital. I think with the establishment of fund of fund, if that can be bridged to a certain extent, that will kind of fuel the growth of the SMEs and also the startups. I think for me, we have no shortage of talent. The biggest challenge is access to capital. And look at the stock market, all the banks are doing really well. They have a lot of profits, right? But you know, we have lack of access to funding as SMEs now. Even like I can take my personal example. When we started off, local banking, debt capital was not accessible to us without collateral. But now you have enough access to capital because you establish, then you have enough access to capital. So that appetite needs to be brought in, and I think obviously the steps the government have taken, I hope things will be much better, and the next generation probably don't have to go through the same struggle that we went through.
Thank you. Interesting. It's policy versus implementation, I suppose. So let's, Deputy Minister, let's link the digital transformation with actual economic growth. Now, Mr. Dhanapala did mention about the digital economy authority coming in. It's going to have, it's going to be empowered. It's going to be the authority. And I believe under its mandate, the metrics for how we measure growth in the economy is going to be built in. So having said that, does the government have a strategic plan or a measurable roadmap on connecting these digital projects with economic growth indicators, let's say such as productivity, exports, employment, so on?
Yeah, I think the whole reason for name this ministry digital economy is because it's not just digital, like we are talking about, like adding value to the economy through digital. And I'll build where Imal left. He covered most of the grounds on the investments and this fund of funds. So what we have seen in the digital industry as a IT industry in Sri Lanka, most of the startups who are coming up with some innovative solution, they exit too early from Sri Lanka. Like they go and establish in some other country for 2 reasons. One is the capital, the second one is the market. That's why we are now trying to establish this fund of fund to attract foreign investors. Of course, local investors will also get benefited out of this, but mainly foreign investors coming and investing in the startups or the innovative companies in Sri Lanka. That way, now when foreign companies come and invest in a company in Sri Lanka, they again bring money to the country, and also they bring the market access to the country. It's not just the money that's coming in. And that market access is very much needed for startups with new innovative solutions, for them to access market as well as for scaling purpose. And so this fund of fund is a kind of a matching funding mechanism, where when some investor comes and invests on a company in Sri Lanka, like we'll have a matching funding done out of this fund. And there's tremendous interest from various other international funds and even the government sovereign funds to invest on these funds. And we are now working on the right policy regulations to establish that fund. And even for funds to establish in Sri Lanka, not fund of fund, just fund of fund, but even for other funds to establish in Sri Lanka, we need certain policy changes. And that we are in discussion with the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, and the VOI to have the right policy in Sri Lanka, because funds require tax pass-throughs as well as the easy capital movements. So anybody investing in Sri Lanka from outside should be able to take at least 90% of money for business expansion in other countries, because these businesses, they invest not to like confine to Sri Lanka, but also for expansion purpose in the other regions. So that way, we are bringing up the right regulation. And at the same time, new regulations also we are bringing in, such as special virtual economic zones. We are, now we have heard of free zones in Dubai, maybe in India, Singapore, and so many other countries. Where those zones have been able to like attract very lot of foreign companies setting up as virtual companies, and then of course when they come in, they will consume a lot of other services in the country. And at the same time, if the banking services are used in the country, then of course the money flows also will happen, and the deposits will also be made in those respective countries. So we are looking at establishing that, and that will serve at least for the regional countries to establish virtual offices in Sri Lanka, and of course then consume and add value to the local economy, and at the same time for Sri Lanka to go up in the ladder of digital in the marketplace. Then thirdly, we are looking at this DPI layer, where data centers, AI data centers is one of key aspect. So by utilizing the local non-political or non-aligned political status in the region, we are promoting Sri Lanka as a hub for data centers, AI data centers. And you know, now there's a concept, most of the governments are now concerned of data sovereignty. And we can use that for our interest to establish AI data centers as data embassies in Sri Lanka, or data centers as data embassies in Sri Lanka, where other countries can use that data center environment as their own, like an embassy in Sri Lanka, in the foreign soil. And because of our non-alignment in the political terms, we can serve the various countries where other countries may not be in that position. So that way, we are talking to multiple organizations, including the big giant hyperscale data center providers, to establish data centers. And we see good interest. And for that, of course, we'll need the right energy sector development happening in Sri Lanka, like multi-grid energy infrastructure. Then the cost of energy has to be comparative to the world energy levels, which our Ministry of Energy also willing to provide. And from in the 2026 budget also, like there's a certain budget allocation to look at certain subsidy to attract such investors coming in. And therefore, like based on the current interest that we have seen, and we are going to release a RFI next week for these investors to bid in. Okay. And thereafter, of course, it will be a direct negotiation with those interested parties. So when we establish large-scale data centers, AI data centers, that will, of course, add value to the local digital industry. At the same time, as a country, in this space, in IT, digital, AI, the recognition as a country also will go up. Because what we see today, or what we hear today is, maybe one gigawatt data center is being established in India, Singapore, Malaysia. Likewise, we are nowhere. So we want that jump coming into the country. Then the other aspect is, now all this government digitalization we are doing to increase the efficiency in the government, provide better service to the public. And by just doing that, we believe we can achieve 3 to 4% of economic growth, jump in the GDP growth. Because in India, now currently their GDP growth rate is somewhere around 6.2. And they are looking at achieving more than 10% GDP growth by 2030, just by focusing on digitalization. And if you look at the digital payments kind of services in India, more than 98% payments, retail payments, are currently digital. So that increases the transactions, the purchases, and everything, so that it'll add value and add value back to the GDP growth. And that's why we are also focusing on getting the digital services within Sri Lanka to that level, so that whole our economy can function much faster, smoother than what it is today. Otherwise, what we see is a lot of our people are wasting a lot of time on maybe on roads or going to some offices to get certain things done. And that is a productive time actually put into get certain output.
That's right.
So that's how we are trying to connect digital economy to the whole economy of the country.
That's a very detailed explanation. Thank you for that. And two quick questions have popped up from Deputy Minister's explanation. I'll start with Mr. Dhanapala on this. We mentioned data sovereignty. When do you think the Data Protection Authority will be fully in power to implement its regulations, and when do you think it will be fully operational?
As you're aware, the 2022 enactment enabled certain dialogue in the industry, academia, as well as in the government sector. So with limited capacity, with the board members' voluntary contributions, and with some external parties, we could publish certain rules and regulations to shape out how we are going to operationalize these certain parts of the PDPA at that form. But we got certain feedback from various stakeholders that we need some level of flexibility across certain enactment by way of proactive preparedness, as well as to respond to certain conditions that are spelled out in the Act itself, as well as the published rules and regulations. One such requirement is to relax the Section 26 on the cross-border data flow, to have some level playing field for both government and private sector players who are playing in the same field. For example, the state banks will face some difficulty in having their personal data hosted overseas, while the private sector entities enjoy that luxury at a different rate or a cost-effective manner. The other aspect is to the requirement of deploying a data protection officer of one's own. So one entity, one data protection officer. It's a huge effort, huge HR requirement, as well as expertise. So that's what we wanted to bring in certain amendments, like sharing data protection officer services. Again, in this era of AI, so we wanted to bring in certain language to open up some potential future scenarios where the AI generated data, how it will affect someone's personal information and privacy. So all these aspects taken into consideration, we went to the cabinet. It granted 6 months kind of a grace period from the date that amendments are going to be enacted. So we said that those amendments were incorporated into the Act number 22 of 25 amendment since last October. So now we are in a position to declare the postponed new date after 6 months time. So probably by May or so we have to do it along with this capacity building that we just started by inviting the professionals in the field to come and join hands with the Data Protection Authority in different capabilities. So enforcement, regulation, market activation, and several other talent areas we are looking for, not only the legal aspect. So it is it's going to be a diverse resource pool with reasonably higher rates of remuneration when compared with other government entities. So then we want to revisit the rules and regulations we have already published, and to make new rules and regulations to give effect to those provisions, whereas we always encourage the proactive readiness of all entities, not only government, not only the big players like who are members of the chambers, but some small players who are in the regions up to the village level, having some sense of responsibility and attitude towards the responding to the privacy of individuals, not only Sri Lankan citizens, as the Act says, it will treat the foreigners or any visitors who are coming to Sri Lanka are treated alike. When it comes to the responsibility of the data controllers and processors, we have given certain level of freedom for them to select the technology choices, but still maintaining the core objective of treating the privacy of individuals, but also, as the preamble of the PDPA says, taking note of the importance of the personal data protection in advancing the digital economy.
Thank you. So we look forward to May 2026 for full implementation. Imal, Deputy Minister mentioned India and Singapore as examples, but unlike India and Singapore, Sri Lanka lacks a bit of the institutional venture capital and sustained university linkages to incubators. What can Sri Lanka do to create this kind of vibrant, similar to India and Singapore, the vibrant ecosystem, including funding mechanisms, accelerator programs, and university industry collaboration, particularly to retain and scale the talent we have through the startup ecosystem?
Yeah, I think I've seen how Singapore ecosystem grew last 10 years. So one of the initiatives they did was they created this Block 71. It's an area of Singapore which had old warehouses, and they created that a kind of startup hub like Silicon Valley of Singapore. So they brought in all the government agencies which is working on the startup area. They set up accelerators, they help set up funds in there, and then also gave startup the concessionary access to those resources. And then they brought in universities like NUS, NTU into the ecosystem, and then the accelerators were linked to these universities. So then they created this whole interest from the undergraduates to take up entrepreneurship as a career. That whole initiative started by the government by creating that whole area. Obviously, you still need that places to gather and create that vibrant environment. The other thing is like they brought in some of those IP protection kind of laws where the graduates and the academia, the researchers, they do, then they created mechanisms so the private sector can go and buy some of those IPs and use it in deep tech innovations. So these were some of the initiatives that Singapore did, and at the same time they also promoted Singapore startups to get government contracts, bringing the barrier for entry into government procurement process, right? So if you look at now, even in India, you have this Made in India kind of initiatives. So I think if we have that kind of concerted effort, a lot can be learned from those ecosystems, and I'm sure we can definitely get there are like cities, like if you look at outside of Colombo, look at Goal, like there's engineering faculty, good schools, right? Look at Weeraratne or Kandy, right? Good schools, good universities, and similarly Kurunegala, like, and then obviously Jaffna, like these kind of cities, you can create those startup or environment like Block 71 or Silicon Valley of Sri Lanka kind of zones, where one thing is a physical infrastructure, but also then the infrastructure around accelerators, funding organizations, research organizations, universities all coming together to create that vibrant ecosystem. I think that's needed here. That will fuel the entire ecosystem. And the other thing we have seen is, now one thing is the investment into the startups and creating these companies to thrive. The other thing is how do you allow them to raise funds not only through private capital but also from public perspective. Now you bring in the investors, but then how do they going to exit, right? Yeah. So exits are very hard nowadays, right? So we need to show that path for exits. So how do you do that? Like, then you need to make sure that the barriers for entry in the public capital, like stock market, listing, those kind of things. Now even look at Singapore, now they have pumped in like about $5 billion into get the stock market active again. They're pushing companies to go public right now. So we also need to do these kind of things, promote more and more tech. Now look at in Sri Lanka, how many tech companies listed in ecosystem, in the Colombo Stock Exchange. What is that? E-channeling, it's a channeling company. Obviously not real tech, but they were the first. And then you have PickMe, which is ride-hailing, right? So tech, but tech-enabled business, right? Then you have Zenith. That's a tech company, software company. So only, I can think of only these three, right? So you need to, that entire value chain needs to be mapped, right? From one thing is that ecosystem, and then the funding, and then also into the exits, and also government policies to promote these startups to have access to government budget, the spending, right? So I think we have this continuous dialogue with also the ministry, bringing the barriers down. I think they've been so far very supportive, because you look at the government procurement process for years, like being controlled by a few industry tycoons, like they define the pre-qualification criteria, and only few can, you know, bid based on that pre-qualification criteria, right? So these are the kind of things we are seeing some positive changes. I think this whole ecosystem needs to be revamped to get this going.
So on that point, let's talk about SMEs, startups getting involved in procurement. Deputy Minister, the question I have is, how are we going to get them involved in government procurement? I mean, we have a lot of these digital initiatives that are taking place, and are we looking at policies and frameworks to prioritize local startups from and SMEs getting involved in, just very simply put, bidding for the procurements?
Certainly. I think with the upcoming IS procurement guideline, we are going to bring in certain elements that will allow and favor to a certain extent the local startups, and also especially creating the ability for them to bid and participate in those. Currently, how they are unable to bid for those projects are because of the certain conditions that may be in the procurement, like procurement conditions, or maybe because of they lack certain capabilities, like showing the required financial status, maybe the existence in the history, and also maybe the required capacity, and also the references. But to tackle that, as I mentioned, that maybe resource augmentation models, maybe procurement by prototyping kind of solutions. We are going to include that into that IS procurement new guideline. So especially proving the capabilities by doing a prototype would enable these startups to showcase their talent, their abilities to deliver something, and build from there. But at the same time, we'll be very cautious, because sustainability of those projects or the implementations has to be available, enabled as well. Because currently, what we see is a lot of projects are there in the government institutions, where the vendor who did that either have forgotten about the project or the product, or maybe not existing. So we will give more priority to product companies than project companies. Because what happens is, when it is a project company who's coming as a startup, coming up and doing it, they'll jump from project to project, and at the end they'll forget about the project that they did. So, however, like if a product company comes up, maybe the product is still in the kind of a early stage, but that the government can give that company the chance to showcase by running the product for a certain time period and showcasing their ability to upscale the product to the level that the government is expecting. So that way, like on one side, the government is giving the opportunity to that startups to create a reference, and that company then take that reference to maybe attract more foreign customers and build that as a kind of a good product company out of Sri Lanka. So that's something that, yeah.
Okay, so that's one way of, sorry, yes.
Just to add to that, what I've seen, like in places like Singapore, like with certain threshold, like, you know, like smaller projects, like anyone
Yes.
can come bid, but larger projects, obviously, as the minister mentioned, you need to have the sustainability and all
Business
that.
registration
Yeah.
and all this.
So
Right.
that's something that can be looked at as well, like smaller procurements versus larger national procurements, which needs different kind of considerations.
That's good, because it takes me to another question, and maybe I'll present it to Mr. Dhanapala on the engagement avenues for entrepreneurs with the government. We've learned that are there lacking of transparent processes through which they can continuously engage. There were questions related to the PPP model coming up, and are we going to define the structured PPP or engagement framework to help make collaboration easier with the government? Because we see that everyone wants to contribute to the objectives, particularly under this blueprint, particularly under digital economy. You can see and you can hear the conversations are very positive.
so we can take it from a traditional point of view as well as the more leapfrogging point of view. So, for example, the last September we had this Disrupt Asia with the support of Vimal and the entire ecosystem. So, we gave much visibility for those who are not that much visible to the entire country. So, that visibility by way of a government recognition and with international flavor on it, which attracted I think more than 100 international venture capitals, alone give more confidence as well as to somewhat say appetite for those young cohort to get into this system. The other part is to nurture these young minds from the university levels, so that the government's education reforms and other strategic approaches are focused on STEM and STEAM education, where they may not end up in an employee of a traditional government or a private entity. So, one is the attitude, the skills as well as the professionalism that requires this to sustain, to enter and to sustain into this ecosystem. So, with like the mentors from the private sector like Imal and many others are there to guide. So, with I think the ministry, ICTA and the newly formed GovTech, we have this industry development track, whereas this our journey towards a $5 billion economy through direct IT products and services, as well as the 15 billion target by 2030 from the overall ecosystem, has given some kind of a confidence. So, as he just mentioned, how to bring this message to the banking system, how to take this forward to other funding partners. So, when there is a government assurance, for example, we have currently have a limited engagement of this startup onboarding platform startupsl.lk, whereas we have around 600 various startups and freelancers. So, we can open it up for non-tech other entrepreneurs as well, where these both are mutually benefited from this ecosystem. For example, those who are looking for a small solution, but they do not have a tech guy. So, the tech guy who need some marketing or accounting or any support from the same ecosystem can be mutually benefited. So, I think we have started the discussions with the Ministry of Finance to relax certain regulatory barriers for them to come to the formal business channels. The other aspect is to convince the adult cohort of the society. So, this is not a risky area, but still there is a guarantee that if you exit with a high value knowledge product or a concept, that will bring more confidence as well as revenue to the industry as well as to the country. So, these are the little things that we have enough examples from the rural areas, hill country, from Jaffna, those who came with many hardships, but could demonstrate their ability to penetrate the maybe the metropolitan based kind of a knowledge bases with much more innovative ideas, and even to exit to Singapore or any country. So, we as a government wants to showcase that there is a safety net as well as encouragement, what is called this mentorship framework that you can sustain forward.
Great. Imal, I'll just invite you if you want to add to that, because my final two questions are to the Deputy Minister and Secretary, but if there's anything else you'd like to add to the response.
Yeah, I think we have to promote entrepreneurship as a career at very early stage, like Secretary mentioned, at the school level, because like sometimes now we have that at university level, but university is also getting studious people, right? But you know, maybe the hustlers are the guys who probably drop out, and we are not catching them in any of those current forms. So that's something that we probably need to take to the school level with STEAM education, and if the entrepreneurship centers and entrepreneurship can be taken at the school level, we can probably get a lot more better quality and quantity into the system. So that probably some efforts probably been taken, but I think we need to do it a little more. I think then we can have this ecosystem of job creators than job seekers.
Great, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you that after the next two questions, we open up the floor for questions, so please have them ready. Yes, Deputy Minister, we've transitioned or transitioning from ICTA to GovTech. GovTech has been established, fully owned, government owns it fully, but is a private limited company. There was a question, is this ICTA with a different name, or what's the future like for GovTech, and what can we expect?
Right. So, yeah, ICT also started to implement digitalization in the country. GovTech's mandate is the same. But there are distinct differences, such as now GovTech will be capitalized with substantial money for it to execute projects. And the expectation is to be a self-sustaining entity eventually, maybe within 5 years' time, for it to reach the self-sustainability. For that, it has to execute the projects properly, and also it has to manage its cost structures and deliver that are practical as well as sustainable in the digital space, as well as certain things on revenue generation. Now, when doing certain government projects currently also, if the services that's been delivered by ICT like entities are considered as free services.
Yes.
Therefore, the ownership doesn't get passed through to the respective organization that's consuming those services. Therefore, they don't care whether this service is being successful or not. They just say it's ICT's system and it's not theirs. So when we charge for certain service, of course, even within government, if we implement the certain charging principles, such as when you consume electricity, you pay to CEB that cost.
That's right.
So similarly, for any service, there's a cost, and then the institution will consume the service that is required for it to function. And also then at the end, it will be there in their PNL also, or the PNL, and therefore like the institution also gets the ownership of that solution, and at the end, the leaders in that institution is responsible to use the solution to the maximum. So that's the different thought process that went into forming GovTech. So it will be run through a board, and there will be a CEO and the whole structure, and it will report to what we are going to form next, the Digital Economy Authority. So that Digital Economy Authority will be the ultimate policy developer for the whole of government, and that entity will report to a cabinet subcommittee, which will pass all the government-wide policy decisions. So that new structure will enable us to attract more private professionals in the industry scale salaries and so on, because we need professionals coming for execution of these what is in the policy as well as the digital blueprint. So to attract these professionals, we are forming these two entities.
Okay. Then, Mr. Dhanapala, are we digitally ready? What's the capacity building we are looking at, not just from the citizens' perspective, but also from the public services perspective? Lots of digital initiatives, but let's talk about the practicality.
Yes, we are in a society with around 65 to 70% of digital literacy. So that means still there's a gap to fill. There's age, gender, geographical divide across this ecosystem. Anyway, we have to intervene strategically. So that's why we in the digital economy blueprint keeps the capacity building as a cross-cutting fifth entity across 4 other areas. So it is a way out, I think, from the traditional models to the new models of distance and other modes of education fully deployed in the coming months. So we have started partnership with certain local and international players who are coming with basic solutions whereby we do not need to reinvent the wheel. So maybe we want to make it more localized by way of language and some other ways, but I think we have to think of fast tracking this area. The other aspect is to the capacity of the infrastructure, the networking, the mobile penetration, and the 4G and 5G penetration. I think we are about to auction the 5G spectrum by next month. That will be a game changer because high quality and high speed broadband facility will be there in the most remote areas. But it needs some other infrastructure such as towers as well. So this budget has given certain relaxation of taxation and incentivize certain projects by the government itself. So that we are handling with Asian Development Bank, we are moving for a much innovative model to fast track these tower constructions initiative. The third part is the content for most of the services, the government super app. I think you may have heard in the media. So we want to convert some of the services into one single particular user-friendly applications. There's the silos approach is no longer there. So citizen-centric service delivery would be the way forward. So there are several other instruments like DigiLocker, where you can keep many of your certificates. Once certified, there's no need of certifying again and again. With the Sri Lanka unique digital ID, it would be a unique authentication kind of modality. So we have, I think, somewhat progressed with the sandbox for showcasing certain certain examples how government service is delivered seamlessly by way of just interaction between the what is called the teller or machine, as well as with the person with a biometric verified ID. So you may see in future exhibitions or some other stalls in the coming months. So we want to demonstrate that capacity and to experience, citizens' experience will be there. So they are now experiencing the GovPay and several other digital convergence, so single card for transportation and several other services will be converged. So the back end is basically we want to make sure that the back end is trustworthy and to build the public confidence. So Sri Lanka CERT has started the National Operations Cybersecurity Operations Center to safeguard many of the critical information infrastructure, so that will certify certain services as it has been doing so far, but to make sure that all these application platforms are quite secure for people to engage is some other thing, other avenue that they are looking for. Apart from this, that we the Sri Lanka CERT has started their capacity building, so the awareness programs for public to how to avoid scams and to be more resilient in the online environment as well as offline environment.
Thank you very much. And I must say, a few weeks ago, it was mentioned that the digital initiatives that have commenced were requested to be fast-tracked, particularly Sri Lanka Unique Digital ID. And our panel has actually fast-tracked this discussion after we have we started half an hour late due to the weather, without compromising any of the details that we wanted to discuss. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time spent. Now, we have roughly around 10 minutes for Q&A, and I'd like to open up. Yes, is there a mic we can pass on to the gentleman right in front? It'll be great if you can mention if you are from an organization, which organization, and to whom you're directing the question, please, or to the whole panel.
All right. My name is Prashad Janage. I'm representing UJPS Academy. So, as Deputy Minister said, that the Ministry is also looking for the product development more than project development. So we focused on one product, and then we were working on that as a research proposal, and then we submitted it to Ministry of Science and Technology and different places as well for the recommendations and all. So the fact is, I went with the proposal and I got the approval from the NEDA as well. So I went with the proposal to commercial bank, and then we have a current account there, so it's a private limited. So then they said that the cash flow is not enough, and then I went to the Sampath Bank, and then said we need a current account to just at least to submit the proposal. So then I couldn't submit that. And then if the digital, it's a digital platform that we are going to develop, so I will present that in another time. It's a valuable time for others as well. So I'm not going to present the proposal and everything in detail here, but if you can give me a chance to present it in another time, then I will present the proposal. So my question is, so how we can get the reference from digital economy, as we are going to develop a very crucial system. It was required from like a long time, but we were developing it conceptually, and now we are able to go into the MVP level. So we are going to develop the MVP as well. So my question is how we can use the Ministry of Digital Economy to go go to another step and get a reference, something like that, for other entrepreneurs with that mindset as well. So, yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
So I didn't really get the issue that you were talking about. I'm not sure whether you are facing an issue with the funding or the opportunity for a product to get implement.
Yes,
reference.
it's the opportunity.
Project quality reference.
The opportunity to present and
It's like, I just went to request for the funding with all the government, like NEDA
Right.
also approved,
Okay.
but
Understood.
banks don't accept that. They give a lot of limitations, so then we cannot,
Right. Okay. So for that purpose only that we are creating this fund of funds and the funding mechanism in the country. Because of course, when you go to a bank or some entity, they look at the maturity of your company, the product, and so on, for them to actually implement that solution. But instead of that, what you should generally do is maybe go for an angel investor. Pitch your product, the business concept, to an investor. Could be an angel investor or somebody. I think Imal can explain it more than me. And then they'll understand the potential of your solution, the potential customers, and the uniqueness of your solution and so on. So they'll give you money, enough money. There are so many avenues for you to raise money if you have good product, good business case, and the potential in the market. So maybe Malcolm.
I think we have gone through the same thing. Sometimes you have to pitch to 100 people to get, don't give up, right? So there's no easy answer. Obviously, what you need is a validation early stage, like now ICTA had the spiralation program. You go through that, you get selected, then you get some level of funding that will be used for MVP creation, and that gives you the validation and the confidence for investors to come in, right? That's a journey that you go through. Don't give up. Just keep pitching, and you'll find your luck one day. And obviously, like happy to help if there's a right product, right market fit. There'll be people who's willing to, look at you.
Yeah, my name is Ramesh. So you mentioned about the products, you mentioned about the projects. So I didn't hear the word solutions, right? Because we all know whether it's when it comes to the society, public, 90-10 theory or 20-80 theory, right? So it's a 60-month cycle that political arena is working. So what I see, you have good footprint, blueprint, everything is in place. So what is the, in your rollout plan execution, as you said, so okay, if it is a product, if it is sustainability that you are looking at, what we want to actually understand, the executions coming into place. Because that 80-20 theory, where the 80% will be benefited, where the 90-10 theory is 90% is benefited. So what I feel the question and the suggestion here is, rather because this arena of projects, products leaves certain vacuum for people to play around. If you look at the solutions as well as the sustainability, where the public-private partnership, maybe new things to introduce like rev share concept into your policies, the procurement policies that you are coming in, that might help us. The question is, so the execution is for the 80%, because we know that 80% of the society is still seeking and waiting for that benefit to be come on that way with this digital economy transformation. That's the question.
Right. So as a government, we are very much open for public-private engagement. So that's why now, when you're talking about GovTech also, you asked the question of the capacity building. So it's tough. Like we want to get the best of the best to that company, and our target is to make that the best tech company in Sri Lanka. But don't get scared. It's not to like for software development. It is to develop the architectures, solutions, project governance, and ensure that the implementation and sustainability and everything is in place, so that whatever the digitalization that's happening are sustainable. And we'll engage with private sector for almost all the kind of solution delivery. And you are right, I said as a product, of course, it's a solution. And so solutions to problems. But at the same time, we don't want to do many solutions. We are trying to look at how much we can consolidate and have minimum number of systems in the government, because otherwise it's unmanageable. Like we have very small scattered solutions which you can combine maybe 10-15 solutions and create a single solution and call it ERP. Like we have for the ERP function, we have how many solutions? And that way unsustainable. That's why I said we are preferring to work with more product companies, so that its benefits to the government as well as to the company. But of course, you can't have products for everything. You will need certain solution developers as well, but that will be quite minimum, I would say. So that way, like yes, we will engage with the private sector, and PPP kind of models, revenue share kind of models, we are quite open.
Rasika Lakon. I am representing training organization, Winhe Global Talent Incubation Space. Actually, what we are doing is providing digital transformation enabling training programs. At the same time, we are doing skill gap, identifying like graduate to industry skill gaps and fulfilling those skill gaps through our training programs. And I would like to thank UCSC Alumina also, like organizing this event, very insightful, and we got a lot of information about how this vision now is into the implementation stage. And I need to add something, and I have one question to Mr. Dhanapala. One thing is I am working as a visiting faculty to few universities, state and private universities in Sri Lanka. And I got the chance of teaching to some after A-level students, 500 after A-level students and 200 undergrads for the last 6 months. And as we know that, Data Protection Act, implementing that is one of the key pillars in this whole thing. And as we know that as a fact, implementing this has a very big challenge of since we don't have the right digital literacy levels and awareness about what this Data Protection Act is, and at the same time we don't have that right mindset to get into that. Let me share this experience very quickly. I asked the question from all these 700 students, do you know what is PDPA? So shockingly, actually speaking, from that after A-level students, they didn't have that awareness about what is PDPA. At least actually 2% people were there, they aware about it, but rest of the 98 people from that after A-level crowd, they didn't have that understanding. So that I then changed my question to whether you know Personal Data Protection Act. Then few people, they answered yes, but not many again. So that what my question is to the Deputy Minister at the same time, Dr. Dhanapala, so how we can improve the awareness, because they are the people, undergrads and the after people are going to be the rest of our workforce, so that they are going to basically take this challenge, and we are also facing the same challenge, educating now the current level as well. But how do we have any strategy for that? Have you identified something to fulfill that awareness gap?
That's a great question, and thank you. In the interest of time, I just want to ask, is there anyone else who has a question related to the PDPA that we can present the panel so that everyone can be heard? I'll come back. There are 2 questions. I'm sorry, we'll have to limit it to the final 2. But yes, over to the both.
So thank you for this, your study and coming up with results. Basically, the education system takes much time to absorb something to its curriculum. So even in the case of cybersecurity, it took several years to absorb into the school curriculum and make it a part of the. So what we suggest is to a lateral kind of awareness across the system beyond the normal school curriculum through teachers and maybe tuition and other systems we have, the other alternative education systems. The abbreviation itself, PDPA, is maybe a known word for the legal and the industrial community, but not to the school community, of course. So even the difference between the general data and the personal data, still there is ambiguity in the society. So we have to really take it to the masses who will distinguish this, because this personal data Protection Act applies not only for the digital data, it's non-digital data as well. For the government sector health data as well as the private sector data as well. So it's this what is called this misconceptions as well as the lack of awareness should be addressed. I think there's a strategic communication plan outlined by the action plan of the Data Protection Authority to address this in a more innovative way. So we will get your point and take into our future deliberations as well. Thank you.
May I also add?
Yes, of course.
So yes, I understand now the whole purpose of the Data Protection Authority is to create awareness as well. Now when you say awareness, there are two aspects. One is how to safeguard data in one side. So the responsibility of data in various levels, maybe it's in institutional level or maybe even in a very small personal level also. How do you safeguard other people's data? That's one side. The other side of the coin is what to do if your data, your personal information is misused. So for that, we have to create much awareness in the public, how to report those and as well as their rights. So those things will be taken care of this authority, which is currently we are building the capacity.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for that great question. Yes.
My name is Lacinta Ferdinando. I represent a consultancy firm as well as I'm an entrepreneur. So we deal with a lot of ministries and especially Ministry of Industries and all of that. So in ministries I see or any place there are Director General. There cannot be Director General 1, 2, 3, right? But everybody is using Gmail. Right? So the email domains are non-existent. So when a country had corruption and accountability as a major issue, getting this little thing right to give a specific email for any authority, right? And even if that person leaves, the next person takes the same email address and run with it. Because we have to find 100 emails whom to write. At the same time, there are issues, sometimes they want certain documents, we cannot upload, right? So then they say, okay, send it to the Gmail. Then the Gmail access is there for about 10 people. Maybe secret documents are seen by everyone. At the same time, sometimes they don't act on those emails because it is, nobody is accountable, right? They say, right? So, all excuses. So these are minor thing. I mean, we spoke about a lot of good things which is happening, but to get this corruption and accountability right, this little thing has to fall in place, in my opinion.
Yeah, great question. And I just want to add to that, with the Electronic Transactions Act also being available, I think this is a debate we've had for many years. So how are we looking at it at the moment?
So to respond to your question, yes, there's behavioral as well as the regulatory part missing to make it mandatory for government official email. So there were some facilities given to many of the officials at the executive level, but some of the constraints have stopped them using it. But now we have in the process of expanding the capacity of Lanka Government Clouds, and we can add more and more government domain, the email addresses as an to meet that requirement. Apart from the mere email solution, we are now in the process of introducing a government-wide collaborative suite where this communication, storage as well as group-related communication will be enhanced. So with that, as Anudhi just mentioned, it is a valid document if it is going to be transmitted through electronic forms, so that it will be added by electronic signatures as well. The Sri Lanka Cert has its own arm of certification, National Certification Authority. So for much high security and much high authenticity, it can be added. So we have budgeted it for the next 2 years. I think it can be rolled out. So your point is well taken that it is connected with the personal data, so that people must be definitely reluctant to provide data into a platform unknown to them, or some other domain than the expected agency domain.
Hi, fascinating conversation. I really thank you all for being here. I really enjoyed listening to this. My name is Sinara. I'm working at LMD. I had a few concerns actually. So one of the points raised that you kept going on about was the digital initiatives and the blueprints and the infrastructure, for example, and the fact that you wanted to, you're looking to India as a sort of example. I was just quickly looking on my phone and I saw that India is like the 4th or the 10th strongest cybersecurity framework in the world. So with that being said, does the blueprint also run in tandem with that? So for example, is there a robust cybersecurity framework being planned by the government, which will be alongside all these sort of digital initiatives, which would, enhance business confidence? I mean, for example, August or April or something, there was a massive hack of Cargill's where a lot of people's personal data was leaked. So, with those kind of things where personal data is leaking, and of course the Personal Data Protection Act is in place, if personal data is out there without a secure cybersecurity framework, how will there be any sort of lasting or strong business confidence, especially if you're going with with tech ideas essentially? Am I clear or?
Yes, there are tech solutions as well as non-tech solutions
Sure.
that are coming. So one is when it comes to the non-tech solution is the strong cybersecurity resilient framework that is we are going to establish with the enactment of the cybersecurity law, so that it is coming, whereas the government will introduce certain mandatory requirements for safeguarding the overall data in the digital domain. For that, the current operations of Sri Lanka CERT will be much different in that context. So it will be more or less incident response as well as the system audit kind of thing. So the digital economy blueprint has encompassed the trust and this governance aspect, but when it comes to the rest of the domains, it can actually operate separately. So Sri Lanka being a tier 2 country as recognized by ITU has a much stronger institutional and readiness framework, but we want to learn the lessons from India and some other countries, especially when it comes to the unique digital ID with biometric support as well as the different authentication models. So the safeguards are inbuilt into the system that we are going to introduce. One is the NDX as well as the SLUDI. So there will be some what is called this testing environment that anyone can look and see that it is foolproof or not. The other one is to open it up for various certifying entities. So the government cannot do it alone for the personal data protection certification, or the bodies are there elsewhere. Those, if we can get their services, then we are ready to open up the doors to help the people who are looking for the certified services. That will be in the confidence of the stakeholders.
I mean, you may actually lose the confidence of investors overseas as well if there isn't a strong enough cybersecurity framework inside the country.
Yes, definitely. The AI data centers and others, once to build them, so we need to have this confidence for them as well.
Yeah, and also with the upcoming Cyber Security Act, we'll be establishing a cybersecurity authority similar to Data Protection Authority. Like it will be the enforcement arm of these security measures in government as well as the private sector entities. And the Act will have the incident reporting mechanisms as well as the guidelines, as well as the penalties for non-reporting cybersecurity incidents. So without that enforcement ability, currently what is available at SLCERT is only the recommendation that they can give, but we need this enforcement act to come for it to be properly implemented, which is going to come early next year. So.
It's actually, I like couple of questions popped up
We
on my
can
side. Yeah, I will
answer
go with-
one.
yeah.
Yes.
So one of the key thing that I'm coming from a startup background, so we are working on product development in we call the robotic chain, the company. So actually, one of the key thing as very young people who came out from the university and working on the products. So one key thing that we encountered was like when we develop a product, there are certain areas that we need kind of very architectural knowledge, or maybe very like high level knowledge we need like when developing this kind of things. So in a way you mentioned that resource augmentation and these things are coming, but when we develop these solutions, sometimes we need this expertise knowledge we need to keep in our maybe in the startup or developing the product. So how, is there any way like we can get this thing apart from the mentorship, or maybe like how we can get this investment into that products in a easier manner? I think maybe Mr. Iman also can give some inputs on that. And at the same time, what we are seeing is like when we position these products, I mean, we are drastically seeing about positioning it in Sri Lanka, but also the same thing we can position in other countries as well. So, and we are seeing the India, and there are like so many startups working on the same kind of idea. So what is the competitive advantage that the government, from government side, that we can get to go to this kind of like overseas opportunity? Because already India, and they have that, you know, from the quantity they are far ahead from us, and from the investment side as well. So we might be need to like focus on the quality and the niche areas. So what are the key action items? I would like to know, like what is the government like working on getting these kind of opportunities, the initiatives into country. So thank you very much.
Would like to take first?
Yeah, I think I believe Sri Lanka, you mentioned about the problems we have, scale. What I believe is Sri Lanka, given the we are a smaller nation and we don't have the scale which can compete with India. It's always, for startups, we always recommend to build product companies, right? B2B product. B2C also we can't scale because of the small population. B2B product, you look at the startups, I mean, Millennium IT, London Stock Exchange acquisition, WSO2, and you'll see a few more coming. All these are like product startups. Even within a large economy or large company, product are built by few smart people. So that's something that you should focus on. In terms of if you look at successful startups here, the talent, even the product, we have seen like these real-time areas, like even if you look at the fintech, real-time B2B kind of products, we have seen good talent comes out of Sri Lanka. So focus on those things. I mean, it's for you to figure out. I don't think government can tell you how to differentiate, right? So obviously government can help you set up the ecosystems right, set up the policies right in terms of funding ecosystem, in terms of you know, creating the right infrastructure for startups to thrive. And beyond that, it's up to the entrepreneurs to take it up to the next level.
Yeah, I think it's always a journey. Like if you start too early in your career, maybe just coming out of the university or something, then of course you may have to like go much further than somebody who's going to the industry, learn the architectures, how to develop high scaling solutions, and maybe getting experience in various technologies and things like that, and coming up and developing something. So it's a journey. So based on where you start, there are pros and cons. At the same time, this is where an incubator kind of establishment can support, if that is there. Of course, we are from the government side also, we are talking to multiple investors to establish large-scale incubators. At the same time, there are certain incubators already, and if you have a good product ideas, of course, you can go and pitch that to them. And at the same time, the capacity development in terms of the solution architecture and maybe the AI is something that we are also looking to establish specialized institutional academies for that. And for example, for AI, to have the AI Singapore kind of setup in Sri Lanka, where industry professionals can take leave for, let's say, a 1 year period, come and train on hands-on AI solution development, and then go back to the industry and then continue from there. So that sort of initiative government is taking, starting, and those will come within 2026 for sure, and that will add benefit to the industry as a whole. And at the same time, we are talking to all the universities also to look at like improving their curriculum to address certain issues that is there in the industry.
Yes, recently we celebrated the Global Entrepreneurship Week that we went to with other partners, with NEDA and others, including of the chambers, to the district and divisional level, so to find out the different talents and how to get this guided towards certain visibility and the next level support. So one challenge is that in Sri Lanka is this IP, intellectual property registration properly. I think that's something we have to look into but being your ears and eyes open, I think there are many avenues that you can drive to the next level.
So just to add on to that, some of the examples I've seen, when you start right out of university and you start, your risk of failure is high, but the cost of failure is low because you have nothing to lose. But when you have some experience working for other startups and corporates in role on product engineering to business development to sales, then your experience is high. So when you start after that cycle, your risk of failure is low, but you are leaving a lot on the table and coming, so your cost of failure is high. So you need to decide where to.
That's right.
But if you look at most of the startups founders which I have seen success in Sri Lanka had some level of experience before they really start. But having said that, there are exceptions. Look at Banuka, started very young, and then to look at the minister or myself, we started like after going in the industry. Same as Millennium IT journey to Virtusa to WSO2, they were 99X, they were mature founders when they're starting off, right? So there's no right or wrong answer, but I think if you don't have experience, at least get a co-founder or an investor who have gone through the journey so that they can guide you through the journey.
That's great. Thank you so much. Sorry. I take this as a sign of a very successful conversation. Yes,
no, that's it. But at the same time, the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs who are there today are very much willing to help teams like you. If you have a real idea or something to get advice, you can talk to Imal. You can talk to myself.
I've been informed by the organizers that there is a
Just one.
question. Yes.
Mr. Minister and Mr. Dhanapala, you mentioned a host of initiatives, like you're discussing with the national
Just a little louder, so
Introduce yourself.
So my name is Durutu Chandrasekhar. I'm from the Sunday Times. Nice to see all three of you again. Just to find out, you mentioned a host of initiatives now, like the National Procurement Authority Committee. You're discussing to change certain things and you know, the fund of funds and things. But shouldn't these be done through changes in law?
Yes.
So how long will that take? Like fund of funds, where are the discussions at with the ministry?
So those discussions are quite mature at the moment. Of course, it will take a couple of more months for them to be established and form the required acts and the amendments that needs to be done. And thereafter, it has to go through the parliaments and the whole the approval process, of course. And for the authority, Digital Economic Authority, to be established, the Digital Transformation Act, now in the draft stage. Once it's internally agreed, then of course it has to go to LD and thereafter cabinet and go to parliament and get approved. So many things are now in the kind of final draft stage. So those will come quite fast. And regarding the IS procurement, of course, have had multiple rounds of discussions with the National Procurement Commission, which is very much flexible, and they also see the need of such innovative concept coming into our procurement system. It was only that previously maybe they lacked the in-depth knowledge on that digital procurement, and therefore that's why it hasn't come to that level so far, but now it will get done.
Thank you.
Deputy Minister, Acting Secretary, thank you so much. We look forward to another conversation on the practical implementations of all our ambitions. I would like to quickly also thank you as UCSC Alumni Association, ZAPI, and most importantly, all of you who are here. I hear it's storming outside. Get home safe, and everyone look after yourselves during these difficult weather days. Thank you for being here. Please engage in these conversations continuously. Contribute to the digital economy. Having questions and doubts is fine, but proactively engage in national initiatives. We as many of you involved in these initiatives. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Good night.
Thank you so much, our moderator and panel members and our audience. It was truly a thoughtful and enlightening discussion. So next, our program is to extend our sincere gratitude to our panel members and to our moderator. So to that, I would like to invite our president of the UCSC Alumni Association, Mr. Anushka Mendis, and the secretary of the UCSC Alumni, Mr. Parakrama Ratnayaka, and the vice president and the event coordinator, Mr. Madhuka Bodhinayaka, and an executive committee member and the event committee member, Mr. Prabhat Weeraratne, on stage.
As well. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you once again to our distinguished panel members and our moderator for your valuable contributions. So as we conclude today's event, I now invite Mr. Parakrama Ratnayaka, the Secretary of the UCSC Alumni Association, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
I will not take much time. Yeah, I felt like we should have this session every quarter by seeing the interest that we have from the participants, and also the details that we discovered through our Deputy Minister, Honorable Secretary, and also through Imal, right? Very insightful, and some of the, I think I can see some headlines going into tomorrow's newspapers, through what being said in the panel. Very insightful. So I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists. Thank you so much, sir, accepting our invitation and make this event a very successful one. And our wonderful moderator, Anudhi, thank you so much for being a very helpful moderator for us from day one. And all the participants who came here with all the challenges that are around. And Dr. Shamath and Dr. Ajanta Atukorala and all the UCSC staff members for giving us this wonderful venue. ADMTC Pasara team for all the facilities given. And I would like to highlight the fact that we are doing this as an annual event, so we would like to extend our support to the Digital Ministry to make this as the platform, right? We can get engaged with the industry and the academia every year after the budget, right? To have this conversation going and to make the general public and the industry aware of all the initiatives, good initiatives, and the execution plans that the Digital Ministry is having. With that note, I would like to invite you all to get into the rooftop where we have refreshments and the networking session arranged. Once again, thank you so much and have a very safe evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you, our panel members and our guests, for being here today with us. So signing off, I'm Chalani Orututarachi, an executive committee member of the UCSC Alumni Association. Have a good night.
Innovation is moving fast. AI, data, APIs are everywhere, but complexity grows even faster. Zappi brings effortless governance, so your teams can move with clarity and speed. Visit Zappi to see how simple governance can be.